Hi, in this video I'm going to run through the options available to trustees of a mature pension scheme who are looking to either minimise the risk in that scheme or secure the benefits and completely wind it up. I'm Simon Hubbard, I'm an actuary in the risk transfer team at Quantum. The first option we'll think about is the default option, if you like, which is continuing to run the scheme in its current form, but adopting a really low-risk investment strategy. So trying to get to a position where we've got a nice stable funding level, we've got a really good idea of how much money we need to pay future benefits. Now that brings some advantages because the scheme still exists, you've still got trustees involved in running it, so you've got control over the scheme, you've got the ability to enhance benefits in the future if that's something that you want to be able to do. But what you end up with is a low risk position. It's not zero risk. There will still be some funding level volatility, and because the scheme still exists, you're still going to have advisors running it. As much as I'm sure you love your advisors, there are costs involved in that, and there's time required from the employer as well. Now, taking that further, if we want to find a more secure position, we could look to buy an insurance policy for the scheme. So that's a single policy that the scheme holds, which exactly matches the benefits due to members, and that's called a buy-in. Now, as I said, that gives better security than before because of the exact match, but it comes at a cost because insurer pricing will be higher than the cost of running the scheme as it was before, and there'll also be some upfront costs involved in setting it all up. This is a similar option to the first one in many ways because the scheme still exists and this buy-in policy is an asset of the scheme, so a lot of the pros and cons apply from the first option. If we want to move on further from there, we could consider a buyout. That's where we take that one big insurance policy the scheme held from the buy-in and we break it up into lots of little insurance policies, one for each member of the scheme. And that's the first option we're considering in this video that allows you to actually wind up the pension scheme. Now, that means that you no longer have trustees, you no longer have any control over the benefits, but you can also bid a fond farewell to your scheme actuary and the other scheme advisors. There are no future fees involved either. So you've got upfront costs, but then you've got cost savings further down the line. A buyout is arguably less secure than a buy-in because now the members are left relying solely on the insurer to pay their benefits. You haven't got the employer covenant and the PPF standing behind the scheme anymore, but it's usually considered to be still a very good level of security. And the final option I'll talk about here is the newest option available to trustees, and that's a consolidator. Now, a consolidator is a big pension scheme that's been set up specially to receive transfers in from other pension schemes. There are different types of consolidator available, and that'll have to be a topic for another video. For now, the main thing to focus on is the fact that a consolidator doesn't have an employer sitting behind the scheme, and it doesn't meet the capital requirements for an insurer. Instead, it sits somewhere in between in terms of how it's structured. So that means that the cost of going down the consolidator route is probably lower than an insurance buyout, but it's also less secure. And as a result of that lower security, the pensions regulator sets out some tests that a scheme has to satisfy before it can consider the consolidator option. And that's essentially saying that we need the scheme to be in a position where it can't afford an insurance buyout now, it doesn't expect to be able to afford one in the foreseeable future, and the employer covenant is relatively weak, so that consolidator option is expected to improve the level of security available to members. They're the four main options available to trustees. You could continue running the scheme as it is now with a really low risk investment strategy. You could secure the benefits with an insurer, either using a single policy, so that's a buy-in, or lots of individual policies for members and then winding up the scheme, that's a buyout, or you could go down the consolidator route.